Welcome, everyone, to the Cultivating Compassion Education series sponsored by Compassionate Care ALS. We've got a real special program in store for you today. Uh, we're thrilled, in fact, to present an inspirational talk with the legendary actor and singer Aaron Lazar. He's a Broadway star, a SAG Award winner, Grammy-nominated singer, celebrated keynote speaker, and global symbol of consciousness-driven transformation. Following an ALS diagnosis in 2021, Aaron has been redefining what's possible in the face of extreme adversity. Through his Impossible Dream platform, which has now grown into a movement, Aaron has traveled the country as a keynote speaker. He released his debut album, Impossible Dream, with more than 50 Broadway stars, earning his first Grammy nomination. And he launched Impossible Dreams, the podcast he both created and hosts. He's also the co-founder of the Impossible Dream Machine, an unprecedented AI-powered research engine advancing our understanding of ALS in collaboration with top data scientists, leading ALS clinicians, and billionaire entrepreneur Mark Cuban. Through Aaron's courage, creativity, voice, and visionary leadership, he embodies what it means to overcome adversity, proving the soul can rise, inspire, and ignite impossible dreams. Thank you, Aaron, for being with us today. Normally at this time, our founder and CEO, Ron Hoffman, would say a few words. Ron sends his regrets. He's on a plane right now. But he did want me to say that he has a tremendous amount of respect for Aaron, how he has approached his illness, what he's been able to do with the possibilities and potential of the platform that he's been able to develop and who he is as a person. So Ron sends his blessings and gratitude to you, Aaron, for all you've done. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Aaron Lazar.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? I
Yeah,
got my caregiver, Hedrick, here. I'm Aaron Lazar. I want to thank James. I want to thank Rod. I am here today as a thank you to them and Christine and everybody at CCALS. We moved my arm out. CCALS, as you guys know, is an amazing organization, and I'm very grateful to them for many things, but you know, what they do for patients like me, our families, and the community is huge. And I want to thank you, James, and thanks for having me today.
you're very welcome.
Uh, the Impossible Dream started in 2000, 26 years ago. I was on stage in the dark waiting for the curtain to rise on a musical called The Man of La Mancha. And I was playing the lead, Don Quixote, a legendary knight on a quest to better the world through unwavering idealism. And that night, my childhood dream of becoming a professional actor was coming true. There were critics and agents in the audience from New York, and it was my chance to prove that I had what it takes to make it on Broadway. And it went very well. And I sang the iconic number, the big 11 o'clock number, a song called The Impossible Dream. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe. And I can no longer sing really, but that song changed my life that night. The lyrics go on to say, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to reach the unreachable star. And as my impossible dream started to come true that night, I had no idea that I had no idea what impossible really meant. And 23 years later, almost to the day, I got diagnosed with ALS. I should say, by the way, a lot of people like to say my illness, my cancer, my ALS, my diabetes. I don't I don't play that game. It's not my illness. It's an illness. I take no ownership of it whatsoever. I didn't ask for it, and I'm going to beat it. And I think the trap with ALS, with a lot of diagnoses, but particularly with a son of a bitch like this, is if you identify with it, how can you possibly beat it? How can you possibly get out from under the weight of the devastation, the suffering? So I chose very early on after the diagnosis to cry it out and get over it. And I didn't even tell my kids. I have two teenage boys now. They were 9 and 11 at the time. This is 5 years ago. And I didn't want them to be scared. My uncle's wife, non familiar, but my Aunt Anita had passed away from ALS. She was a concert pianist. And I remember I did a benefit concert for her at my high school in my 20s, and she couldn't make it because the drive was too far. And then Broadway's great Rebecca Luker passed away from ALS during the pandemic. And I was close with Rebecca and her husband, Danny. We had done a concert together at the Library of Congress. And I knew how devastating the disease was. I didn't want my kids to be scared. I knew this was going to move kind of slow. I had no idea, you know, really how fast, how slow, but I knew I had more than a year to live. So I said, I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to follow my soul. I have a podcast called Impossible Dreams now. Coach Mike Krzyzewski, legendary Duke basketball coach, three-time Olympic gold medal coach, likes to say that you got to follow your heart when you pursue your dreams. And my heart, even now with this BiPAP on my face, it tells me to keep going, to keep pursuing my dream, my new impossible dream of healing from ALS. Because it's not even really to beat it, right? How do you beat something that you can't see? Why make it an enemy? Why not accept, surrender? Surrender meaning stop insisting that the moment, whatever moment you're in, be anything other than the moment that it is. Not surrender, capitulate. Surrender that God has a plan and you can hear that plan if you quiet the fear, you quiet the mind, and you listen. You listen to the whispers of your soul. And when I did that, I heard very clearly, I'm going to beat this fucking thing. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. The how and the when are not up to me. It's up to God. And my relationship to God's very different now than it used to be. I'm a nice Jewish boy from South Jersey. Grew up thinking God was a bearded guy in the sky. And if I didn't repent during Yom Kippur once a year, I'd be a 9-year old boy who'd be dead by the time I was 10, right? Not written in the book of life for another year. That's not what God is to me now. I started to read books on healing and the nervous system. And I became a passionate student of the mind body connection. And 100 books later, I came to know God as infinite consciousness, the energy that is within and all around every single thing, everything. It God is you, God is me, God is everything. And so if I am God in so much as Hamlet is Shakespeare, how do I create my life? And I started to look at the energy with which I'd created my life up to diagnosis. And I saw a lot of room for improvement. And I learned that change is the hardest thing a human being can do, to change. Most people are afraid, especially changing your beliefs. To dare to believe something other than what you have been believing for decades, the patterns that you've been living by, the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs with which you create your life from the second you wake up to the second you wake up. Yes, you create your life while you're asleep. You're dreaming, your subconscious is going, your soul is working, you're resting, you're recovering, you're healing, or you're having nightmares, you're panicking, you're afraid. Just because you go to sleep doesn't mean you stop doing your work. Can I get some water? We turn that plate off, Patrick. Mhm. The humidifier, turn that off. So I started reading books and I started to understand that I had been living my life afraid for a very long time, afraid that I wasn't enough, that my life, despite all my success, was not enough, that I was a failure, despite my face on buses, billboards in Times Square, because I went through a terrible divorce. My kids were little, and I blamed myself, even though it wasn't my fault. And I ran all that through my nervous system. And for the greater part of a decade, I lived in fight or flight, low level chronic trauma. And as we know with ALS, any disease, stress plays a part. And with ALS, one of the biggest stresses is, am I going to die? For any human being contemplating mortality can be terrifying. We're not prepared for that. Most of us are not prepared for that. Um, and I certainly was not at 45 years old. But if I want to heal, I can't live in fear. Fear is destructive and it's not real. It's an idea in the mind. As soon as I started to train my mind to work for me and not against me, I started to reduce the amount of fear in my life. And I mean, really know thyself. KNOW thyself. I really turned over my entire existence to understand myself better, to change myself in order to change my destiny. And a year and a half later, my kids started to ask questions about my legs, which had started to stop working. I had lost weight and I was walking with braces or in a wheelchair. And at the same time, people were asking me about my journey and they were listening. And a friend said, "Hey, man, you should start speaking." And I started in people's living rooms. And within a year and a half, I was in stadiums of thousands of people. And I was speaking on the spiritual mindset of health and overcoming adversity and how to be resilient, which was new for me because I had not been, not like this. Uh, and in order to do that, I had to tell my kids first, before I told anyone else. So I, I had started to assemble my impossible dream team, and they were the first ones on it. And we had created a narrative for me, for them, for my family that my kids were so a part of and still are. That when I told them I have ALS, they were like, "Cool, Dad, are you going to die?" I said, "Not anytime soon." And they ran out to go play. The reason I bring that up, Hendrik, can you move my arm? Is that ALS has a shitty script, a shitty narrative. We as a community have to flip the script. Einstein said you cannot solve a problem at the same level of consciousness at which it was created. We cannot end ALS if we keep being afraid. if we keep spending hundreds and hundreds of millions on clinical trials that work in animals but never in humans, we have to change the level of consciousness at which we are approaching this disease. And we do that together. So, here I was traveling as a speaker. You turned that off, please, Eric. And I was asked by a record label to make an album. A year later, I had a Grammy nomination. We started a podcast. Mark Cuban was the first guest. I started an AI company to help end ALS by looking at ALS patient data with data science and machine learning to try and understand why this disease moves fast, slow. There's 63 reversals. Why? And I did all that, guys, on a path to today, where I am on a BiPAP for the first time ever giving a speech. I can no longer sing, not like, I can barely. For those of you who've never heard me sing, you'll understand what I mean when you Google me or James plays a video. Um, and I haven't walked in a year and a half, but I'm here. And I'll be here doing this work until my soul tells me it's time to stop, which for me, I think will be 50 years from now, you know? And the work I do now is every day, countless times per day, staying in the script that I want to rehearse. I'm an actor, right? What life are you rehearsing? You're going to get good at whatever you practice. And this disease is a motherfucker. So you got to show up. And there is the most incredible reward on a daily basis. I appreciate life now like I was never able to before. I appreciate love. I have closer relationships now with my kids. I met the love of my life a year and a half ago in a wheelchair. She's my ride or die partner. She's with me every day. I never would have believed that was possible. Look what God has delivered in 5 of the toughest years of my life. And that's because we create our lives. And I've taken responsibility for that. So that's just a little bit about me. That's how we got here today. And I'd love for James to play the Impossible Dreams music video.
to dream the impossible dream,
to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow,
to run where the brave dare not go,
to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star.
this is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause.
And I know I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest.
And the world will be better for this, that one man, scorned and covered with scars,
Still strong with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars. Impossible dream to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear
Amazing.
I could not hear it at all, so I'm
It
glad you guys could.
came through pretty good, I think. Yeah. Beautiful production, Aaron. Really amazing.
Thank you. I see McFinn is here, and I want to give him a shout out because I read McFinn's book. He's one of the 100, and then he was kind enough to talk to me a couple times, and I'm still inspired, McFinn. And I still plan on getting my ass up there to go for a hike with you, dude.
That's great. Well, it's Don Quixote, you sang that song and you're still singing it,
Living it.
living it, living it.
So maybe we can take some questions, James.
Sure. Does anyone have any questions? If you'd like to just go ahead and raise your hand in the
Henry, can you move my arm, please? Yeah.
control bar there at the bottom of the screen, or you can just unmute and ask a question, or you can type into the chat if that's more convenient.
Just take it.
Aaron, I'm going to go ahead
That's
and get
great.
things going with a question that I had, if that's okay. Um, in our work at Compassionate Care ALS, we often talk about the shock and trauma of an ALS diagnosis. And I was wondering, was that the case for you? I mean, when you got that news?
I mean, I was in a state of anxiety and depression for 9 months leading up to it. And like I said, probably a decade prior of living in high stress, anxiety, sometimes fear. So the diagnosis was a relief in a way. I mean, it was terrible. And, we cried for a couple days, but I knew what it was after that and said, all right, let's figure out a way to beat it. I don't care what doctors say. I really don't. I do in that I love my doctors. I was pre-med at Duke. I'm not anti-science. I'm anti, we don't know much, so we're going to give you a 3 to 5 year window like we give everybody else. No, no. So I found doctors that were not married to that. Merit Skovic and Matt Harbs and Rick Bedlack, James Berry, uh, Frank Diaz out here in LA. There are amazing doctors out there, but I find myself talking to, that's good, thanks, man, ALS patients, and they might not have access to that kind of care. And the neurologist gives them that shock and awe without hope. And I don't think that's, I don't think that's helpful.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you, Aaron. We got a couple questions. Paul, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks so much for this Zoom here, and also thank you for your amazing podcast. It's really inspiring, and I was diagnosed about a year ago with lower limb onset, and I'm still walking, but barely. Um, and I have been doing, along with working with a functional medicine doctor, I've been doing meditations, mostly Joe Dispenza meditations in the morning. And I'm really curious about your um, meditation practice, your visualization practice, your using the mind to heal the body practice, because I'm a firm believer in all that.
Well, that's great. And you look great, you sound great. And, I'm proud of you and inspired by you, Paul. Uh, yeah, meditation. I started meditating devotedly soon after. Joe Dispenza, Sadhguru, uh, transcendental meditation. I've done it all. Uh, I went to Joe Dispenza events. I was a healie at different events, and I could probably connect you with their medical staff if you want to go to events. They are life changing. Um, and his books are great. I mean, I have a list of books on my website, probably 50 of the 100, and you'll just find one that speaks to you. Uh, but I dove in so much that I mastered it in a way for what I needed. And really, until last 6 months, I meditated. Last 6 months, I've kind of just taken a break. But it's so individual. It's so what your soul is called to that what works for me might not work for anybody else. But it's a doorway to hope. It's a doorway to inner peace. The belief is that the body is the last thing. We create ourselves from the inside out. The energy running through your system is tied to the thoughts running through your mind, is tied to the self talk and the inner dialogue, is tied to the belief system. What do you want to believe? And how do you start practicing it? Even if you don't, you fake it till you make it. You know, but I heard there's another song on my album called Let Your Soul Be Your Pilot. Sting wrote the song, and Josh Groban and I do it as a duet on the album. We won an award for it. And that's it. My soul is my pilot. It's my true north. And it's impossible to hear that, the whispers. If you've got racing thoughts, a lot of fear, and a lot of old patterns that stand in the way. So, you know, your soul will guide you, Paul. It already has. What to read, what to listen to, what feels good. Consciously create your belief system. Consciously create your thought patterns. Be aware of, I had to do this yesterday. I got home trying to go to the doctor, couldn't make it because I have a new headrest in my wheelchair, threw out my shoulder, crazy pain, had to turn around, got home, was crying, and was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And as soon as I cried it out, 30 seconds, I was like, oh yeah, I do. I'm fine. I talked to Sarah, my partner, have Hedrick, my caregiver, and I was good. Managed to take a shower yesterday, uh, have a pretty good day despite being in pain. And my kids came over last night, and my son had never seen me on this biped. And he goes, Dad, I'm worried that this might be the last year you're alive. And I went, trust me, buddy, I got a 50th birthday coming up in a month. And that thought has crossed my mind. But living in that narrative, I will die. If I accept that belief, then every day when I wake up, I'm in conflict with myself. because I don't want to die. So if you want to live, you need to align your mind with that desire. The universe does not give you what you want, it gives you who you are. Does that make sense? So I had to change who I am, and I have to do it a lot sometimes. But yesterday was a huge reminder. I get these reminders a lot that challenges remind me of what I really want and bring me back to myself, my true self, not the fear, not the ALS script. They bring me back to who I really am. So a day like yesterday reinvigorates the shit out of me because it reminds me, oh no, I want to heal. I am healing. I want to beat this. I am. I want to be around for more than a year. I am. And I double down every time. And then the work continues. So that's just how I choose to go about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Good to see you,
And
Paul.
Paul, feel free to just, contact me, get my email. We can continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Excellent. Let's go over to Christine. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question, Christine.
Aaron, you and I have had we've met before, and usually when I meet somebody who has ALS, I say, "I'm sorry that you have ALS," and it kind of opens a door for the conversation to kind of see where someone's head is at. And I've been doing this for 13 years at CCLS, and your response really, I mean, you probably saw it on my face. Your response was like, "I'm not sad that I got ALS." And I was like, whoa. And I mean, I'm sure this is not the first time someone has said that to you, but can you elaborate on that? Because it really stopped me in my tracks. And, it would be wonderful if people could come to that, if possible.
Yeah, thanks, Christine. I mean, ALS, I used to think was a teacher, a catalyst. From early on, I said, how is this happening for me, not to me? And I no longer credit ALS. I credit my response. My life is my response to the adversity. It's not the adversity. ALS is a portal to the real me. I am no longer some Broadway hunk leading man who was in the gym at least an hour a day. Fitness was a huge part of my life. You know, Sexy muscle car on the outside. Under the hood, I was a mess. But I created a hero identity for myself. You know, I'm no longer that guy, but I'm a different kind of hero in a way that is much more deeply true to my soul. We create identities, your job, your relationships, your body. ALS makes you realize you're not your body. You're not. You're in there, and we get this thing that we get to explore themes of life with, whatever themes your soul chooses before you come here. And then life happens, adversity happens. So it's like being a victim to the circumstance means you are setting up a story of, for me, being a victim is why me, why me, why me? You know, uh, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, Christine. I'm just sort of extrapolating a little bit. Uh, the the answer is why not you? Who says you get to live life exactly the way you prefer all the time? You know? And I lived a charmed golden boy life for a long time, and I didn't know how to deal with adversity. So, yes, am I sad sometimes? Yeah. Am I angry a lot? Yeah. Is it hard a lot? Yeah. But the gift of aligning with who I really am, the gift of finding my soul partner, the gift of expanding my consciousness, excuse me, the gift of these BiPAPs are a bitch, by the way. All they do is fill you with air. Um, there have been so many extraordinary gifts, none of which I think would have been possible if I took this on the chin from day one and let it knock me to the mat and stayed down there and waited to die. I don't think any of this would have happened. I think I would have lived a much more painful, much more scared, much more debilitating experience. But again, that's just my gut. It's different for everyone. And I respect and admire anybody and everybody living with this thing and however you choose to do it. It's your life. I'm just here to tell you about mine and in the least, hopefully put a smile on your face, give you some hope.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, great message for all of us. I'm going to jump into the chat and ask a question from Devin. He says, when people, oops, something's blocking my, okay. When people asked you what was wrong with you, instead of saying, I have ALS, what do you tell them?
Uh, I tell them it's ALS. I mean, my relationship to the disease, just because you're honest doesn't mean you own it. You don't have to take ownership of it. It just is. The sky's blue. It's not my sky, but it's blue. I don't need to pretend that it's not. You know, it's not that it's hard, not hard. I didn't want to be on this BiPAP today. I don't want my kids to see me on it. But now that I've gotten over it, I just am like, it's what it is, man. Here's me. Here's a machine that helped me talk to you today. God bless it. Thank God for it. Of the people that have reversed this thing, Mark Manchester is one. And his wife, Lisa, who he met in a wheelchair also, by the way, said she never let anybody in the door that had a negative attitude. You got a negative attitude, get out. Because it takes such a commitment to loving yourself that people who don't get it, you got to be careful. And that's why I didn't go public for almost 2 years. Because when I did, and a woman close to me said, well, look, I know somebody who died from this. You're going to die. but you can live a great life between now and then. If I had heard that right after diagnosis, I probably would have crumbled. I wouldn't have known how to handle that. But by the time I spoke to her, I was able to share with her that's not my belief. And here's who I am. And 10 minutes later, she said, "You know what? I think you are going to beat it. I, I just feel like you're the guy." So 10 minutes, you change somebody's mind, and it can happen even faster than that. So it is what it is, man. The circumstances of it, but you are who you are, and you get to do this your way. Henrik, can I have water, please?
Thank
I
you,
got
Aaron.
about 5 minutes in me, James.
About five. That sounds good. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. So we'll try to move through the next couple of questions and then wrap it up. So Charles, if you'd like to unmute and ask your question, please do.
Yes, first of all, thank you, Aaron, for sharing your story. It gives me inspiration. And I have not listened to your music. I have not listened to your podcast. I knew nothing about you when this started today. And I'm thankful I took the time to listen to your story and the way you handle it. I want to say there's two or three things you said today that I relate to very closely. One is that the stress and its impact with ALS is a real thing, I believe. And the other is the AI use of AI to help with the research. Uh, I'm a member of a number of different organizations related to ALS and ALS research. I'm speaking at the Vanderbilt ALS research report next week. And one of the things I've talked to everybody I talked to about is the use of AI to help with the understanding of ALS. But I wanted to say that it's amazing that not having heard you or anything, we had the same theory on those two items. The other thing is that whenever somebody asked me about my ALS, at first I was very nervous. I did two things when I found out I had ALS. I said I had to get right with God and my soul, and I had to make sure my family was taken care of. I was given 18 to 24 months, and I'm on like my 33rd month or 34th month, and I'm still doing good. I was in a wheelchair. Now I'm not. Um, I'm blessed. So whenever somebody asks me about ALS, my reaction is I'm blessed. I was given the opportunity to have ALS and to share my story with others, and that's what I do. I know that God put me in that position now, and that's what my calling is. Like you, I have a BiPAP. I have braces. I walk with a crutcher. Sometimes I have to use a walker now. I don't have to use a wheelchair as much now, but yes, but I will not give up the fight. I will not stray from sharing my story. I will not give up on my peers that have this disease that are fighting it with hatred or spite or disappointment. I will tell them there is a purpose. Please find your purpose. So you've inspired me, and I know I'm taking too much time, but I want to thank you for that. And I will be finding your podcast and listening to it. We share a lot of the same thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles, and please get my email so we can stay in touch.
Thanks, Charles. Good to see you. McFinn, we'll give you the last question of the session here, so make it a good one.
Well, I got a good one for you. So when they go to the doctor's office and the doctor says, "I'm sorry, there's no hope for you. He told me I would be dead in 18 months." In my mind, I said, "Thank you, because you were honest." So Aaron, when they told you that there was no hope, what did you do?
Yeah, I don't think I had that kind of grace at the time. I think I believed them because I grew up idolizing doctors my whole life, and I wanted to be a doctor. You know, uh, Before I was an actor, I was on the pre-med track. I took the medical college admissions test. So to me, doctors were always the final say. But when I went home, I just started to hear, I'm going to beat it. And I honored that voice. And I love that, McFinn. I think gratitude, faith, family, belief, and love are like the five pillars of this thing. And gratitude is huge. I'm so grateful for uh, the opportunities that I've shared with you today. So I think that's a great way to end the conversation, sharing with people that the only thing we all ever get to control is our attitude, our perspective. And uh, change your perspective, you might change the experience. You will change the experience.
Thank you, Aaron. And yeah, I think we've reached just about the end of our time here together. Thank you all for being here, for taking the time to join us. Aaron, great to see you, and your
Henrik,
tenacity,
we kicked this off.
perseverance. We appreciate it very much. So thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. And
Yeah, thank you, everybody. This was great. I appreciate it.